I'm pretty proud of it. So doing good. Ronnie, you're still there? Yeah?
I'm still here, yeah.
Good. All right, guys. So we are live. I have my first guest in the hot seat, Cozy Talks Hot Seat for 2022. With me, I have Ronnie Dickson from Prosthetic and Orthotic Associates of Tennessee. Welcome
Nice to
aboard.
meet everybody. Excited to be here.
All right. So we're going to give you guys a couple minutes to jump on board. For those of you who are watching the replay, go ahead and put replay into the comment section. I always like to look back to see who's watching. And also, if you have any questions and you're watching the replay, I always try to go back and answer those questions. Hey, Pam. So Ronnie, can you see on the right side of the screen? Hopefully you'll start seeing. There you go. So we got Pam on board. We got Denise from North Carolina. There's my Tar Heel right there. What's up, Chuck? How you doing, man? Cheers, guys. All right, we got a lot of you popping on board right now. So guys, you know the routine. If you've been on my show, I don't like shy people. I like to know who you are, where you're from, and what you got in your mug. I was telling Ronnie, it's finally respectably cold here in Florida. I can actually have hot chocolate.
I violated the first rule of today's show, and I don't have a mug. I'm going to have to pay retribution for that.
I need to send you one. I need to send you a. Have I sent you a mug? I haven't sent you a mug yet, have I?
I don't think so.
Bad Cozy. I need to send you a mug so you can be one of the cool kids. All right. We got Benny watching from the YouTube channel. And guys, I do want to remind you, I am broadcasting to my YouTube channel. It's under Cozy Talks. So for those of you who don't particularly care for Facebook or you have trouble finding me there, you can always go to YouTube. Hey, Thomas, glad you could join in this evening. We got Sean Brown from I'm assuming Jacksonville, Florida. We got Brian Bishop on board. Denise says, Heels winning, watching game and you guys. Awesome. Pam is in Indiana. There we go. And we got Sean saying, go Canes. There's a lot going on tonight in sports. I'll tell you what, I think we're going to be able to compete with everybody here.
I'm still hurting from Sunday. So yeah, sports is a sore subject right now.
Oh, so guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining us for the first time, what's up, comadre? There's my comadre right there. We got PTs, we got prosthetists on board. We got the whole community. We got Leanne from warm California hugs. There you go, Leanne. And Eric.
My boy Eric over here.
That's right. He's been on the show a lot. I love hearing from Eric. We've got Tom McIntyre on board, Louie from Pittsburgh. Let's see. These are flying through. We got Jeff, man. It's been a while since you've been on here. It's about time. Second test socket, just water. All right. We got Dick Devers with his Miller Lite and Keith. Cheers, guys. All right. We got a good crowd on board. So those of you joining us for the first time, my name is Cozy Belloso. I'm a physical therapist, amputee specialist in chilly Tampa, Florida right now. And with me this evening, I have one of my first sponsors for 2022, Ronnie Dickson. He is the prosthetist and owner of Prosthetic and Orthotic Associates of Tennessee. So thank you so much for supporting the show, Ronnie, and for giving me the time to
everybody.
So guys, you guys hopefully have been watching all the really cool pictures I've been posting on Instagram and Facebook. I've had a really great time. Ronnie's going to be telling us a little bit about his story, which is a really great story. And tonight, guys, well, not tonight, but a lot of times on the show, you hear me talk about this is what you should expect from your prosthetist. This is what you should be hearing from your clinician. This is what you need to bring to your prosthetist. So here is a wonderful example of what you can expect from your prosthetist and your prosthetist clinic. And guys, in our United States and even in Canada healthcare system, our prosthetist clinics come in so many different shapes and sizes, different business models and different things. But there's certain common core characteristics to look for. So we're going to be covering a lot tonight. And we also have a lot of great giveaways. So all my quick draw McGraws, get your fingers ready because we're going to give you the opportunity to have 3 different giveaways tonight. Hey, Bill, we got Ashley there's my Ashley. Now we can get started. Eric says, that's my prosthetic artist. I like that. I like that. So Ronnie, I've been talking too much, so I'm going to zip it and I'm going to let you tell your story.
All right. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Yeah, I guess there's a lot you could say. It all started right around when I was 5 years old. I was diagnosed with Trevor's disease. And what that was a deficiency in the growth plates in my left knee and left ankle that caused them to grow slower than my right leg. So I had to have multiple surgeries as a kid growing up. I was part of the Shriners hospital system. They treated me awesome. And ultimately got to the point where I was in high school and wasn't able to do a lot of the things that I wanted to do, not well anyways. So I would go to soccer practice, and I kind of had reached that point where I would get home and I wouldn't be able to walk until the next morning because I was in so much pain because of everything that was happening with my knee and my ankle. And that's kind of where, we had gotten to a point where there weren't really many good treatment options. And I just made the decision to have it amputated above the knee, which was a really, really liberating moment for me, because I knew that didn't really matter what kind of lay next, but that it would give me a better opportunity to have the quality of life and mobility that I was looking for.
And that's a pretty mature perspective to have as such a young man. Had you met any other amputees at that point in your life?
At that point, when I made the decision to have it amputated, I hadn't met anybody. I'd seen, some of the stuff that goes off on the news of people doing amazing things with prosthetics. It was a little bit of an interesting time. I mean, Facebook still didn't exist. There wasn't a whole lot of social networking or anything like that. But I was kind of fed up with what I had. So I knew that regardless of what lay on the other side of the fence, it had to be better than what I was doing.
Wow. So what came after? How was the recovery period and learning how to use the leg after that?
Yeah. So for me personally, the recovery period, I'd say really took the course of about a year and a half, 2 years. Obviously after my surgery, within 8 to 12 weeks, I was, starting to get fit with the prosthesis and walking again for the first time. Just kind of learning what my new situation was. As a young college kid at the time, I made the decision for me for that first year of college to stay home and go to community college the first year, which I felt like really gave me at least a stable, kind of personal home life, so that I could just focus on learning how to walk again and, what all that looked like. I definitely had some issues with my first few prosthetics. The first one I shrunk out of really, really quick. And, the technology that I was in, I just felt like it maybe wasn't quite up to speed with some of the other stuff that was available. This was in 2005, so it wasn't all that long ago.
No.
Then, things got a little bit better with my second socket that year. Could move around a little bit better. It stayed on better. Me as an above the knee amputee at that point. But yeah, it was really, kind of around 2 years where my legs stopped changing as rapidly, and where things started to, kind of get a little bit better for me.
Yes. Yeah. And guys, take note of this, because we're going to be circling back to this later on in the show. It took 2 years for that limb to stabilize. And in the meantime, how many sockets did you go through? Would you guesstimate that you went through in those first 2 years?
Yeah. Those first couple of years, it easily had to have been 4 or 5. And, we were changing around the designs a lot too. So being a kind of this hybrid, my deformity was congenital, but my amputation wasn't congenital. So, we had some other things that we were kind of troubleshooting that were slightly atypical. But I just knew that at that time that, I wanted to be more active. I wanted to be able to live my life without pain and without discomfort. And I wasn't going to stop looking or aspiring towards those things until I got there. So, after, going through maybe a couple of prosthetists, both of whom, which I'm super, super thankful for, and who really gave me the best of what they had to offer, I finally found the right kind of solution and recipe for success for me. And that was a really, really kind of liberating moment, kind of the end of this journey of where, all right, like now for the first time since I had conceived of the whole idea, I don't have anything stopping me back from reaching my goals.
And you did quite a bit with that. I mean, you literally climbed the mountain after that.
Yeah, it's such a crazy story. You know, I'm definitely one of those people that I do believe that you create your own luck a little bit, and part of that starts just by putting yourself out there and you know, just kind of giving it your best and seeing what happens. But I got super lucky to have an event called the Extremity Games, which was right in my backyard. When I was 19 years old, happening in Orlando, Florida. And what that was is that was an adaptive sporting competition for people with limb loss and limb difference. And it got me inspired to rock climb for the first time. And then I met the Challenge Athletes Foundation that same month. So this all happened to me in January 2007, a year and a half. I'm so bad at math. A year and a half after, you know, a year and a half, 2 years after my amputation. So those were two really pivotal moments for me because I got a lot of peer support through those organizations and made my own little network of people who really inspired me and got to try a lot of really neat and cool things.
So tell us, and guys, I'm not saying this just to plug my own channel, but seriously, you got to go on my Instagram and see the pictures of Ronnie rock climbing. These are not like Photoshop pictures. These are amazing, amazing pictures. Tell us a little bit about all the adventures that you've had with rock climbing.
Yeah, holy cow. So yeah, with rock climbing, so I mentioned I started it because I heard of the event called the Extremity Games. I fell in love with it the very, very first time that I went and tried it. I remember getting there to the climbing gym. I went with a couple of roommates. I was 19 years old, and I even took off my leg, you know, to climb for the very first time. And it was hard. It was challenging. It was a little bit scary. But I just knew that the whole allure of it, you know, figuring out how my body moved, was something that I really, really liked. It's kind of like solving a puzzle, but it was a physical puzzle. And it didn't matter that I had one leg because everybody encounters the same challenge when they go rock climbing. They have to figure out how their body moves, whether you're short, tall, and whatnot, whether you have a short reach or a long reach. You know, ultimately the goal is to get to the top, and there isn't really a limitation on how that happens. You know, you have to try and use what's there to get there. So I really like that, and that really inspired me because I felt like it was all on me. It wasn't a matter of whether I was disabled or not disabled or missing a leg or not missing a leg. It was just fun and it was exciting.
And I remember that was the first time you and I actually met a couple of years ago at one of the OPAF rock climbing clinic here in Tampa. So that was amazing. I love seeing how you were able to adapt just right on the spot, people's prosthetic devices, and just take off their foot, the goat foot, and off they go. But I'm getting ahead of myself because that's a show we're doing later on this year, guys. By the way,
totally. Yeah, we'll talk about all that. But I guess, yeah, long story short, I got to do a lot of really incredible things rock climbing, including starting our USA Climbing Adaptive Program, helping launch some adaptive programming all across the United States, along with a lot of really amazing volunteers and people. So maybe those will be stories that we tell fully in another show.
Well, you definitely have a couple of fans here. Andrea, our occupational therapist, our resident occupational therapist on the show right now, is cheering you on. Eric is like, yep, he's really good on the boulders. Yeah. So,
yeah, Andrea is awesome. We did a program together in Gainesville and did some stuff with her support group over there. Gator Amps, they do some really incredible stuff.
Yep, we get a lot of those up here too. So tell us, how did this, you know, obviously inspire you to go into the field of prosthetics?
Yeah, I think by getting to work with the Challenge Athletes Foundation, that's where, you know, I remember attending Bob Gailey's running clinic for the very first time. I think I did that in 2008. And I just thought, man, this is such a cool opportunity. And I would just love to be able to work and function in this capacity for other people. And I just can't imagine anything that's cooler than that. So that's really kind of where I got the idea at first to become a prosthetist. I was in college at the time. I had a completely different major, but finally when the light bulb went off, you know, I kind of realized that this was going to be my passion and calling in life.
Absolutely. And then it led you to POA.
Yeah. So
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, everybody's got a place, and ideally what we're looking for out of this conversation and out of this story is for everybody, to find the person or work together with somebody that, completely takes them to that next level, or, helps certainly at least get them better than where they were. So that person for me was a guy by the name of Stan Patterson. I really, my mentality that I was going to do it no matter what, but really in reality, what was happening is, I was training for a triathlon. I was going about my daily thing, but I was paying for it at night. Where, I'd have sores on the end of my leg, and, maybe wouldn't be able to wear it for a couple days after. So, that was obviously a little discouraging. And I met Stan, who had some different solutions than maybe some things that had been presented to me previous. And for me, he was the person who just completely changed the ball game for me. So at that point, I'm in prosthetic school, and I have this amazing opportunity. I immediately know that I want to learn as much as I can from him, and start shadowing over at a POA in Orlando, and then ultimately get to do my residency there. Stan actually wasn't going to hire me, but I told him I was going to show up on the first day anyways, and just kind of hang around until,
He let you in.
Yeah, until he let me in. So I just wasn't going to take no for an answer. And I think that's the kind of,
I think it's worked out for you.
Yeah, the show that he needed to see.
It worked out.
That's how I got in over there, and then ultimately spent the first 8 to 10 years of my career over there before my latest venture up here in Tennessee.
And how long has it been for the tennis? Because it's recent, but it's been a couple of years now that you've been in Tennessee.
Yeah, we opened up a shop up here in Chattanooga, Tennessee in February of 2019. So we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary.
Holy smokes. And from what I hear, it's thriving.
Yeah, it's been really good. It's been a lot of fun to have such an amazing community to call home. Obviously, Florida treated me really well. It was the place where my family's from and where I grew up. But lifestyle wise, I was looking for something different, and, looking for a new opportunity to kind of build this next chapter.
So Eric says, I challenge him a lot.
So. Yeah. Eric's also an ultra motivated individual. I've been constantly impressed by his drive, and his residual limb is no gimme. That's for sure.
There we go. All right, guys. We are
thankfully, I like a good challenge.
We are ready for the first giveaway. So those of you who've been following us on social media, we did a post on Instagram that you had to follow POA of Tennessee. And I'm going to post this now, guys. There we go. If you have an Instagram account, guys, this is Ronnie's handle right there, POA TN for Tennessee. Check him out on Instagram, hit follow. Guys, as always, those of us who have our own businesses and we're trying to grow with social media, really helps us when people help us out in return as well with following us. And a lot of our giveaways tonight are geared exactly for that. So show Ronnie some love. If you have an Instagram account, follow him on POA. And tonight's winner, the handle said Pablo Sanchez, and I looked it up, and it's a gentleman named Adam. So Adam, congratulations. You have won a socket sock. So we are sponsoring for you to go and choose your own design for a socket sock. I will be sending you that information after the show is over. All right. So Harsh, no worries, man. I got you covered. If you're not on Instagram, we got 2 more giveaways tonight. One of them will be, well, I can't tell you what they are because then you're just going to go do it right now. So, but no worries. I know not everyone is on Instagram, so we got a little bit for everybody to be able to participate, but you got to stick around. And guys, last one of the evening, it's a $50 gift card. So you definitely want to stick around. All right. Yes, Eric, you're giving away all the stuff. Don't give away all the secrets, Eric. You're giving away our show. So guys, just as a sneak preview, later on this year, Ronnie's going to come back into the hot seat. And we're going to be talking about liners and all the really cool things he does at his clinic with liners. We're going to talk about suspension systems, and we're going to talk about adaptive rock climbing. So a lot of great stuff this year that we do that we're going to be talking about. Brian, thank you so much for following Ronnie on Instagram. So guys, that's your homework assignment. Go follow Ronnie on Instagram right now. So guys, let's talk a little bit about what you expect from your prosthetist and their role in your life during the different stages of recovery from limb loss, right? So some of you might see your prosthetist, 4 to 6 weeks after your amputation. Some of you might be lucky enough to see your prosthetist before your amputation even occurs. So we're going to talk just briefly about the different stages and what you can expect. So let's start with the pre-op. These are the folks that they know that they're going to have an amputation, not due to obviously a car accident or an emergency situation. And they have perhaps a little bit of time to do their research. Ronnie, I'm not sure if you had that opportunity for your own case. But what is it that why should people talk to their prosthetist prior to amputation? What would be the purpose of that?
And it's such a great opportunity, and I guess as we get into kind of the technical nuts and bolts here of our conversation, I'm going to come at this from a couple of different perspectives. One as an amputee, and then two, as a professional who really loves what he does. So, and I'm just going to try to keep it real with real straightforward, simple answers. And when we get to the Q&A, if there's anything else that people are wondering, I'm just trying to be an open book so that you can have access to information and get the best out of your quality of care from that. But yeah, getting into the pre-op, I think it's really good and really healthy. I mean, not to just jump into the water without knowing what you're getting into. So a lot of times, we're dealing with individuals, maybe they've had some sort of limb salvage is the most common thing, or a congenital deformity that's worsening or something like that. And it's a great time to answer questions, kind of go through what that process looks like. And, a lot of times, someone might ask me, well, how long am I going to be out of work? And, what does all this look like when I'm putting things back together afterwards? And that's a really good, opportunity to help, provide some clarity on all those different things that are generally, a little bit confusing or unknown. And also, too, it gives us the opportunity to truly work together as a team. I mean, that person either has a surgeon that's been recommending this, or possibly we're working together on finding them a surgeon that's, going to do their amputation. But so that all people are on the same page on what's being done, how is this going to happen, and then how are we going to move forward, after all of this. So the pre-op is obviously the best case situation. It doesn't happen as frequently as you would think. And, haven't been doing it for 12 years. Just when I think I've heard every single story, there's a new one that just blows my mind in some sort of way. So, the pre-op is a rare one, but it does come up.
Mm-hmm. And it's something that I know I advocate for a lot. If it's one of those things where people are asking, what can I do to prepare for my surgery? I get that question. I'm like, call a physical therapist, call your prosthetist, and start having that conversation. And just building that trust. I mean, you obviously, in telling your own story, we could see that you have a very special connection, not only with POA, but even the first prosthetist that you work with. And you obviously have a special connection with even Eric here watching us this evening. So guys, this is where you start to build that trust with your clinician. You got 4 new followers, Ronnie. Thank you, guys. Awesome. Thank you, Andrea, Marianne, and Patricia. Thank you guys for doing that. So immediate post-op. So folks, when they're literally still in the hospital right after surgery, is it ever the case where you go and see those patients right in the hospital?
Most definitely. So, this is where things get a little bit murky. So, sometimes, what'll most often happen, the situation that we see right off the bat is the surgeon or the hospital might call a prosthetist in there to consult on a shrinker or to consult on a stump protector, to help protect the residual limb in a fall or something like that. And what often ends up happening from this stage is, the shrinker or the stump protector then leads to that person being the provider for their prosthesis. And this isn't inherently a bad thing, but what it does is it does pigeonhole the amputee a little bit into thinking that this is their only choice. And that's the part that, is unclear about it. And it's natural to have this person coming over and to want to put your trust in that person.
Yes.
That is a very, very natural feeling to have. But sometimes what that can lead to is maybe that person not being the right choice for that person's care, which then leads to the cycle of people that we see that are going for, maybe finding their prosthetist the second or the third time around, as opposed, and maybe having, not always, right? I also don't want to taint water for anybody who's been, who's had things go well for them this way. But the story that I hear is I thought the person that saw me in the hospital was the person I had to go with. So I just want to caution that at this point, they're there to provide a portion of care, but it doesn't have to be exclusive to you.
Yes. Yes. And I'll add on a little bit. It's both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because if that happens to be the prosthetist that was meant for you, then how wonderful is that they got to see you from day one, right? But definitely this is a place where you can be your own advocate. Obviously surgeons have the best of intentions when they make these recommendations, but obviously not everyone fits with everyone, right? It doesn't mean it's a bad prosthetist. It just might not be the right fit. So understanding that you have choices, and just because you already had the amputation doesn't mean that you can't take the time to research that choice, right? Because you do have a little bit of wiggle room there as the incision heals and you get to the first official prosthetic appointment, which usually, oh, hey, Denise, thank you for following. Hello, Alfonso. Usually happens somewhere in that 4 to 8 week mark, depending on how the wound is healing, depending on the surgeon's protocols. So that first visit, right? Person finally makes it out of the hospital. They got the blessing from the surgeon. You may go and be fit for your prosthesis. What happens at that first appointment?
Yeah, so I'm generally seeing that happens, around that 4 week mark on a normal healing timeline when somebody gets their suture or their staples out. Their next follow-up with that doctor might be pretty far off in the future from there. So that's when people are kind of getting cut loose, and that's the stage where, you have your amputation and we talk about that first 1 or 2 weeks in the hospital. That's a really, really tough time. I mean, oftentimes you've had a lot of stuff that's happened. I would just encourage, you want to do your diligence, but at the same time too, like you said, you have time working for you. So, in that 4 to 6 week mark, that's when I would go, interview a couple different people, see what's out there, try to become as educated as possible. And what'll end up happening, I think, when it's the right fit is you'll find somebody who will help educate you and wants to be kind of part of that healing process for you. And that's different for everybody. But yeah, so we talked about, shrinker. I mean, that's definitely for sure happening in that 4 to 6 week range if it hasn't already happened. And, we get ramped up for our first fitting. So once the prosthesis decision has been made, and we decide to move along with somebody, I'm helping educate, maybe some of the different systems are available. And then, maybe what my best recommendation would be for that person and why, so that they feel like they're a part of their care. Or at the very least, if they just want me to do my thing, I feel like I've done my best to educate them.
And then probably one of the most surprising comments I get from patients when they first come see me is because, they didn't know what to expect is, I thought I was walking out the first day with a leg. And it's like, nope, that's not how it works. So that first visit, I know from the PT standpoint, I try to tell folks, make sure you talk to your prosthetist, make sure you tell them what it is that you used to be able to do and what you want to be able to do. So in those first visits, obviously you're doing check socket, right?
Yeah, we start out with the casting and start going through that check socket period, which I believe, if I'm looking at the outline here, we're going to go to in depth a little bit later.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we're going through the first fittings. In the first 6 months, we're going through an indefinite timeline for check sockets to get a fit that's fitting well for somebody, you know, prior to going to that first definitive prosthesis. You know, I definitely recommend that also at this stage, once somebody's in a check socket going home, that's relatively comfortable, or once they're getting their first definitive prosthesis, that we get, you know, if we're not doing PT, you know, we're definitely in PT by then. You know, I'm really a big believer that the first 6 months is the time to, you know, put in the work. And, you know, and the work that you put in the first 6 months is going to set you up with a good foundation to, you know, continue on the rest of your journey as an amputee. So that's definitely my best recommendation for all that.
Mm-hmm. It's the boot camp days.
Oh yeah.
I know when patients see me and I tell them you might need to come see me 2 to 3 times a week for the next 4 to 6 months, I usually get the what look. And it's like, well, you put in your time up front and we do this right. We do the recovery process right, and staying in communication with all the team members, and you kind of front load the hard work.
Yeah,
they start
absolutely.
to see that later on.
And what ends up happening, at least the way that I see things, is that it comes and goes in waves. You know, so ultimately we're really intimately involved with somebody for a period of time, you know, whether that's the first 3 months or whether that's the first 6 months, you know, and then there's almost this logical pause that comes, you know, once that person has, you know, gotten their definitive prosthesis, has maybe started to get back into some of the activities that they were doing previously. You know, sometimes they're even, you know, returning to work on a part-time basis, or even on a full-time basis, but they're getting back to their life. They're seeing me a little bit less until ultimately the dreaded thing happens, the residual limb changes, and, you know, we have to, you know, kind of get back in tango again with each other.
Right. And so speaking of which, that segues into the next section, is basically that first year, year and a half, or sometimes even up to 2 years, where they're going to see you. It's going to start to taper off, hopefully between that 6 months to a year. But realistically, you have patients whose limb volume is changing dramatically up to the 2 year mark.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. I remember when we were prepping for this this show here, you know, I kind of told you, my gosh, yeah, you know, I'm still wrong just as many times as I'm right. After probably more often than I'm right, I'm wrong on the, you know, how much the residual limb is going to change. So, you know, I have an individual we fit with a above the knee prosthesis in December 2020, still has not had a replacement socket. It just completely blows my mind. You know, and then we have other people who are going through maybe 2 or 3 replacement sockets in that first year. So it truly is so variable from individual to individual. And really all that we're looking for here is that you have someone who's going to, you know, be with you on that journey and understand that, you know, these are things that I can't control, and these are things that the individual can't control, but that together we're going to work on getting them taken care of.
Yeah. And this is something, guys, I like to do this every once in a while on the show, the COSI poll. So Brian put up there, he had a test socket and 3 others in a matter of 2 years. In the first, let's put it at 2 years. How many sockets did you all go through in your first 2 years after amputation? Go ahead and start putting that in the comment section. And the reason why is I want, especially the people who are first starting out in this journey, that they're just going, what is wrong? Why can't I stay in a socket? Why? I want you to see just how many sockets people tend to go through and how it's just all across the board. So Ashley said she had 5 sockets in 2 years. Harsh had 2. Pam had 1. Pam, you're the unicorn here. Tammy had 2. Jill had 1. Total fail. Let's see. Dick Devers had 2. So yeah. So we're kind of all over the place. All over the place. So my newbies who are watching right now, take note of this part right here. And then you have folks like Patricia, who is still in her original socket, and it's been 2 years.
Yeah, Patricia, you're a unicorn.
Yeah, I call them the unicorns because I'm like, that's not the typical, right? Let's see. Jean has 4, Kay has 3 or 4, but she also had a revision. And that's another thing. You throw in a revision, right? Sure. You throw in an illness, and that's going to make things go all over.
I think this is a good time to educate too. I'm just seeing a couple of these answers. We could answer a quick question here. When are you eligible for a replacement socket? And so anytime that there's been change in the residual limb and there's a medical necessity And what that means is if you're having sores, if you're having pain, if you're having discomfort, if there's been a volume increase or decrease, these are all typical reasons that somebody might need a replacement socket. And so that can happen as quickly as 3 to 4 months from the last time that a socket was replaced. And I know that seems like a really, really quick turnaround, but it happens, and with good documentation, meaning that we have measurements both 3 months ago and measurements now, that is something that we can pull off. So if the socket's fitting you comfortably and you're happy with it, you should absolutely rock that as long as you can. But if for whatever reason you're still in that first socket and you're just not sure what that looks like, if you're not getting around as good as you did, it might be time to investigate getting that refit or resized. Because sometimes too, it might not be a huge volume loss or volume gain, but sometimes the shape changes in such a way that a bone is more exposed, or it's just not supporting you in the one spot it is supposed to.
Absolutely. And Sean says, or if you're having to wear 18 ply of socks, and guys, I think the textbook, right, the thing that they ask you on your licensing and bar exam is when the patient reaches 15 ply, that's the time to change the socket, right? But and I'd love to hear Ronnie's opinion on this. For me, it's when is it that the person starts losing connection with their socket? I have some patients that they reach 8 ply and they're going bonkers because they've lost that proprioceptive connection with their socket. They can't feel where they are and they're losing their balance. And then I have some folks who are in 15 to 18 ply and they're whizzing up and down just fine and they don't have a problem and they can hang on to that just a little bit longer. We're starting to get questions in here. We got to get moving, Ronnie. You're getting questions.
We're going to get moving. We're going to get moving. I promise y'all. So I think the one thing we agreed on as a consensus is now talking about the first year is really, it's kind of finding that new normal, getting used to, putting on your leg in the morning, going through your daily activities, taking it off at night, all the different things that go along with that. And that there's going to be good days. There's going to be days of huge positive growth. And then there's going to be days that just feel like a step backwards, and one can come immediately right after the other. But, I always like to tell people, you've got to keep your, head in the game, and the only direction is forward. You can't change what's happened. None of us ever dreamed that we were going to be an amputee, but what we can do is, just move forward in the most positive way possible. So when I'm having a bad day, and it still happens, I might get phantom pains that are really bad that keep me up at night. And I just know that if I can get to the point where I go to sleep tonight and wake up the next day, tomorrow's going to be better.
No, very well said. Very well said. And guys, after that first year, after those first 2 years, when things become hopefully a little more stable, the prosthetist is basically your lifelong friend, your prosthetist and your PT. Let me just put that one in there as well. This is a part of your life care team. So the same way that you should theoretically have a good primary care physician. If you're diabetic, you should be being followed by a good endocrinologist, right? Or an immunologist if you have an autoimmune disease. Your prosthetist and your physical therapist become your lifelong part of your clinical team. Okay. How often you go back and you see them, that will be different for every single individual, right? Some of my patients, they give me a high five once every 3 years, and that's just because they got my Christmas card. And then I have other patients, right, that I talk to them on a weekly or monthly basis and just to see and help them out. So there we go. Hey, Jody, glad you're here. Jody, I want an update on how you're doing, by the way. All right, guys. So how do you find that good prosthetist? I've said this a lot on the show. There's a lot of great prosthetists out there in the world. How do you find one?
Yeah. This is a really, really good question. And, so yeah, let me just flip over, but there's lots of different ways you can do this. And, it's a great time to be an amputee right now, because we have so many different resources that we didn't have before, so one thing you can do is you can just Google, prosthetist in your local area. What's likely going to happen, depending on how rural or urban your area is, you're going to have at least a couple choices pop up. And, oftentimes they're going to have reviews that have been left for them. So you can kind of glean some information from the internet. Social media is a huge one, where you might be able to ask other people who are in your community, what their experience has been with other prosthetists and what options are out there. And even just word of mouth. We have a lot of patients who, hear about us from, other patients of ours or through social networks, people in their neighborhood or people in their church, and local organizations. So, but you've also got to go looking too. It's not just going to come to you. If I hadn't, looked around for my opportunity with Stan and POA in Orlando, I don't doubt that I ultimately would have found somebody who would have been able to get me to that level that I wanted to get to, but certainly not as quickly. So you've got to go looking for it. You've got to see what opportunities are available to you, and you've got to, it's a little bit like dating. You've got to kiss a few frogs maybe to find the right one. So, I think that's the best way you can do it.
And an interesting thing, like I tell people, look at the reviews, because it does give a chance for people to really speak out. And what I tell folks is, look at the good stuff, look at what the good things that they have to say. And when you see the quote unquote negative reviews on a particular clinician, read what they're saying. So for example, in one of the physicians that I have for myself, they get a lot of negative reviews for the wait time, right? But that's because the physician spends a lot of time with each patient.
I really like what Denise said over here. Just the fact that, they were able to hit a really close connection right off the bat.
Yep.
And
I'm reading right now. So excellent, Denise. He was the one referred and it was worked out well. And it was critically important that I should not hesitate to let him know that about any issues or concerns that I may have. That's a big one right there, guys. And, I encourage people, a lot of people find my clinic by word of mouth. So usually I get a phone call from someone saying, I heard you offer physical therapy. What do you know? For me, guys, it's important to take those 5 minutes and talk to the person and answer their questions, okay? Because they're essentially interviewing me, and they should, and you should be interviewing your clinician. So definitely having a clinician from the beginning who wants to answer your questions, and who wants to communicate with you is a huge, 2 thumbs up right there.
Yeah, you need someone who's going to be supportive, a good educator. I like someone who's also a good teacher at the same time. Not only this is what we're doing, but this is why we're doing this, and these are some of the other things that are available to you, and maybe even reasons why we're not trying some of the other things first, just so you can know what all the options are, and be brought along in the process. And a good listener, ultimately, everybody has different ways of communicating. And for me to understand exactly what somebody's saying, you've really got to tune in, put a lot of the other stuff aside and try to get down to the bottom of, where we're both on the same page.
Now, Ronnie, what information do you like your patients to bring to you on those first visits? What is it that you hear from them?
So one of the favorite, things I really, like is when somebody comes and they have a wide variety of experience, because I really, really like to tune in to the things that went well, tune into the things that maybe they didn't like as much, and then come up with a really, really good game plan where we can knock it out of the park. So that's the thing, other things, obviously if someone's never worn a prosthesis for the first time, one of the things we're looking at is I'm trying to give them as much experience as possible, through educating and through maybe trying them on some different products and giving them some different options so they can tell me what they like rather than me unilaterally making the decision for them. That's another really good strategy that I like when someone doesn't have as much a prior experience, to try to get down to the bottom of what's really going to work well for this person. And sometimes it works great where we 3 feet, and on the third one, the person's starting to feel really good with the outcome. And sometimes I can try 3 feet on somebody and they say they all felt the same. in which case, I'm just going to do the best that I can with what I have in front of me to make a decision for them. So there's a little bit of everything that goes into it.
All right. So we're going to take a pause right there, guys. Who's ready for a giveaway? We have kind of an awesome giveaway that I'm a little bit jealous about right now. So I just posted a link right now. This is the link to Ronnie's POA of Tennessee website, and it's specifically in there about what is POA about. Okay. I want you to click on that link. Don't click out of here now. Click on that link. Tell me the color shirt that Ronnie is wearing in that picture. And I want everybody to put in the answers, and we're going to pick a winner from anybody who submits a correct answer. Okay. So guys, go. And I'm going to show you right now. Let's see. I was practicing this, so I know it's going to work. Aha. So the winner is going to get one of the POA shirts, and I'm going to zero in on this so you guys can see it. It's really cool. That's a really cool shirt. Built for adventure. All right, guys. So go to Ronnie's website. I posted the link, and tell me the color shirt that Ronnie is wearing. Whoops. Let me go back to my screen.
Correct answers there.
Woo. Okay, there we go. We got to do one of these now and pick the winner. All right. Ready? Ready? Do you want to pick it, or do you want me to pick them?
Go for it.
Me? Okay. Let me go. Boom. Brian Bishop. All right. Brian Bishop, congrats, man. After the show is over, Brian, send me your t-shirt size and send me your address, okay? And I will hunt you down if I don't hear from you. So, be sure to send me that message. You can send it to me either on my website, on my Facebook, on Instagram. It's pretty easy to find me. So Brian, t-shirt size and address.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. So
thank you guys for participating. And guys, while you're at it, save Ronnie's website. Check it out after the show is over. Take a look through that website and just see all the really cool things that are there.
Thanks, y'all. Going here through our outline, we have what are the questions that every amputee should ask their prosthetist, on or before their first visits, and this kind of goes back to that interview process that we talked about. And for me, there's just a few really easy ones here. I'm a really, big believer in kind of the craft of everything and how it's made, and some of the detail that goes behind that. So, a few of the things that I have written down here are, do you do ambulatory or walking test sockets? That is, a really, really big question for me, because something, let's say it's just a test socket. You can fit a test socket in the office. You can walk on it for 15 minutes in the parallel bars. It's just not enough time to figure out what it's actually going to do to you over the course of, 4 to 5 hours, 6 to 8 hours, and over a whole day. So for me, that's a non-negotiable. Like, I've got to be walking on that test socket. I've got to literally take it for a test drive, and have the opportunity to come back and get the changes to it that are necessary.
Yes, take notes. One more time for the people.
That's just the number one thing I would ask, and I might just think really hard about, if the answer is no to that, I might, definitely think long and hard about that. Mm-hmm. The other thing too, and it's important, it's less important than the first one, is fabrication on-site or off-site. So are you making the stuff that I'm going to get provided with here, or is that getting sent out somewhere else? That could possibly lead to more turnaround time. And two, same, I really like geeking out on the craft of, how the prosthesis is made. So I want to have control over every part of it. I want to make sure we're getting the proper adjustments made for the patient, and I don't want anybody else other than me or my team taking care of that. So that being said, you do have a lot of really good clinicians who know how to work within the framework of the other thing. It might just take more time, and in my opinion, it's more hit or miss. So not to say that someone can't be successful in that kind of framework, but I would make them earn your business at that point on why that's going to be a better option for you.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, a really, really good one, and this comes down to the communication between the patient and the prosthetist is, okay, so we came up with this really great plan. We're both excited about it, but what if this doesn't go according to plan? You know, because everything's all, you know, all rosy and the blue skies are out until something goes wrong. And until, you know, 3 months down the road, we're having some major issues. You know, we'll cover this in the next kind of segment of this talk, but, you know, you want to ask that person like, hey, if this doesn't work out, you know, are you flexible enough to come up with a different solution? And I think those are my big questions.
Those are good ones. Are you guys taking notes? Especially that first one, the check socket one. That's a big one for me. Whenever I have a patient who comes in and they're like, my prosthetist wouldn't let me take my check socket home, I just do one of the whole like Ryan Reynolds like meme things, because it's basically, you got to know, you got to put it through the gauntlet, and you got to put it through your daily routine to know and pick apart what needs to be fixed and what needs to be tweaked on there. Johnny, you're awesome, Johnny V. So, you know, guys, every single talking point that he just mentioned right now is absolutely spot on.
And, you know, so there are very few, but there are situations that exist where it's not appropriate for someone to go out in a test socket. We've got one guy, he works move-in sheetrock for a construction company. So each one of those sheets is about 75 pounds. And he's extremely active, and he would just destroy that check socket. So I'm doing one of two things with that individual. You know, he's coming for an appointment where we're walking for 3 or 4 hours in my office. You know, he's going to hang out with me, and we're gonna be friends for the afternoon. Or, you know, sometimes we will even, you know, do some sort of a pseudo lamination. So that thing is strong enough for him to go pound on. And I just have to be okay with, and the prosthetist has to be okay with knowing that maybe it's going to cost them a little bit more to go through the testing phase, but it's the only way that we're going to get it done properly. And it's a little bit more time, it's a little more effort, but at the end of the day, when he's happy with his prosthesis and we're proud of the job that we've done, it's worth it.
Absolutely. I was gonna say, one of my favorite prosthetists locally here to work with. I love it because he'll put the patient in the check socket and then he'll say, go see Kosi, see if she can't break it. So basically sends me the patient. And I don't try to break it, guys, but just basically I put that patient through every single exercise thing in the parallel bars, everything I can possibly think of, and put it through the gauntlet. All I need is 1 hour. Just give me 1 hour.
And I'll do a couple quick answers here. Generally speaking, a test socket can be made safe. Eric you work with said he cracked his. He's not lying. I think he takes pride in the fact that he cracked it.
It sounds like he's pretty proud of that.
I'm actually not not upset it because that means that he was using it. You know, we came up with different solutions to make sure that he didn't crack his next ones. So it helps push us and everything. So that's what I've got on that topic.
Yeah. So now, and then Tom's as well, but Tom, you're a runner, man. So I know you're probably not easy on yourself. And just for the record, I don't take my patients running on check sockets. I do have my limitations there. So let's get to I call it the sticky part. All right. This is the part where, and as Ronnie mentioned, you know, it's not going to be all roses and unicorns when you're going through this process. Even if you have your dream prosthetist or your dream PT, there's going to be obstacles and there's going to be setbacks along the way. So let's just talk about some of those setbacks, you know, and more importantly, let's talk about the ones that are the red flags, the ones that, no bueno.
Yeah. You know, and obviously, this is all like a little sticky to talk about. And so I'm just going to be honest, and whatever comes out, you know? So, you know, the red flags are when you're not on the same team. We get folks who are very there, who are very with us, and we get some folks who are going through a really, really hard time. And my job, the way I see it, is to absorb as much of the pressure that comes my way as possible. So I'm not being combative. I'm not being confrontational. I am there to help the person through whatever it is that they're going on. And I see people on their best days. I see people on their worst days. But at the end of the day, it's being more than being a prosthetist. I have to be there in lots of different ways for that person. And you want somebody who's going to help bring you up on your worst day, or who's not going to blow up at you because maybe something was said that hurt their ego. When someone's unwilling to take constructive feedback, or really, if I have a different vision than what a patient has, we'll talk about it. We're going to have a conversation about it. I'm going to say, when we started the plan, this is why we came up with this idea. And I'm going to either ask for a little bit more time to see that through, or I'm going to say, you know what, I'm on your same page. I know that you don't like, let's say, the suspension sleeve because it's hard to bend your knee. So I think that this is probably a good time to mix things up. But when I'm not hearing what that person is telling me, that means I'm not doing my job properly. And the red flags too are when, I'm a little old school in the sense that my word is my spoken covenant. We're not going to have a written agreement with each other. We're not going to sign anything. But when I say something and it comes out of my mouth, it's what we're going to do. So, and that's in having trust with somebody. So if your prosthetist is the one breaking or deviating from the plan and kind of breaking that bond between the words that were spoken between you two, that's when I might want to revisit some of those conversations and just say, hey, look, like, this isn't what we talked about, and whatnot. And I think on both ends, sometimes I have to bring up hard subjects with the people who are in my clinic. And then other times they have to bring up stuff with me that's difficult. And rather than skirting around the issue, just, you tell me what you're thinking. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. And we're going to talk this out like adults and be on the same page. When that's not possible, I'm going to do my best to be there for that person in the ways that I can be. So that's the red flags part for me. I don't know if you have any that I didn't bring up or whatnot.
Nope. Because that encompasses everything right there. And the big thing here is communication. And you brought this up earlier, how it's like having a romantic relationship with someone where, part of the success there is having communication, having open communication, because things are not always going to go well. And the measure of a good prosthetist patient relationship is exactly that. Not when the times are going good and the socket's fitting well and everything. It's when things are not going good and stuff is hitting the fan. And how do you communicate through that? And again, and this is something that also needs to be said, and we talked about this in our pre-interview, Ronnie. A good prosthetist is not the prosthetist who gets the socket perfect the first time every time, right? There's a lot of errors in this field. There's a lot of errors in my field. There's times where I'm seeing my patients walk up and down those parallel bars, and I'm going, I don't know what I'm looking at. I need to get help, or I need to outsource. And I've been doing this for really long time, so we're human, right? We're going to make mistakes. And part of the process with just the simple fit of a socket is guess and check.
Yeah.
So comment a little bit on that, on what we commented last time we
Definitely. I mean, let's just get into a little bit of patient bill of rights here, right? So, this actually goes back to our last thing, where we didn't cover just one point that I think is really important, trying out trial feet and knees. So it's like if you went to the car dealer and rather than taking a couple cars for a test drive, the guy said, hey, I'm going to give you this one, and you never got to try it out. You don't even know if you like it or not. And I think it's the same thing. So, prosthetic feet, quick answer. We have a 60-day return policy on feet. So in my mind as the prosthetist, I'm definitely, oftentimes doing a 30 to, ish, as long as, as many days as that person needs within reason to, get a feel for if this is something that's going to work out good for them. Very, very rarely in my career have I had somebody walk out with something and never come back. You know, we're people of our word. Our patients are also people who, you know, respect us. So for the most part, if somebody gives you that whole, well, you know, you got to pay me up front for it, or, you know, I'm worried about it not coming back, then, you know, I don't know, you know, but
No,
that's their,
no.
you know, I'm pretty sure I could call my manufacturer and say, this is what happened to me. Can you cut me a break? You know, I was trying to sell your product. So, um, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that. Knees are a little bit harder. The microprocessor knees specifically, we can normally request loaners, or, you know, trial fittings, but those are definitely going to have a specified date. Sometimes it's just one day in the clinic. Other days I might be able to let that leave the building for 2 or 3 days, but then my rep needs it back because it's got to get to somebody else. So that's a little bit on that. And then, you know, we also had the question, how many sockets will be needed before final casting? As many as is necessary. I mean, you know, in a clinic that's going to be willing to work with you. We get paid for 2 by insurance. But then after that, you know, we're really on the hook for the rest of them, and that's okay. It's honestly, it's just fine. You know, and it's not a you thing. It's not, you know, some people think they're a hard fit, or some people think, they feel bad about having to go through that many, and it's completely 100% okay. You know, you have to give yourself, you know, permission to go through the process. And yeah, I'm telling you, as a prosthetist, as an amputee, it's fine. You know, we do this with everybody. So that's a little bit on that part of it, you know, and yeah, as Kosi was hinting at, the process takes time. I wish I had a perfect modification, you know, shaping of every single socket that I do for people, but sometimes I do a really good job, and you know, maybe it only takes us 1 test socket, maybe 2, and then there's other times where I might bring that first socket out and I put it on somebody and I say, holy cow, did I make this? You know, is this really happening to me right now? And
The Friday afternoon socket. Sorry.
yeah, oh my gosh. Like, so, you know, at the end of the day, you know, whereas like I wish my eyes shot laser beams out of them, and you know, everything fit perfectly the first try, because that would certainly be a lot easier for me. It's just not the way that it works. And you know, sometimes we have a really, really good day. Like, think of watching your favorite sports player. You know, they might go out and have the best game of their career. I'm going to use a football analogy. They're going to throw for 400 yards. They're going to throw 5 touchdowns. You know, they may not even have an incompletion, you know, something that's unheard of in football. And sometimes the prosthetist will have days like that too. We're on fire, you know, things are fitting really good on lots of different patients. You know, we're in the zone, everything is clicking. And then, so, you know, sometimes you just get in a rut too. We're human, where, you know, it just seems like anything that I do just doesn't go right. But like Kosi said, it's not a matter of, you know, whether it goes right the first time. It's, what does that follow-up look like? What's going to be done to correct, you know, maybe how it wasn't fitting, you know, so properly, you know, the first time. You know, what are we going to do to get from point A to point B? And sometimes it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So yeah, that's a little bit of life, you know, a day in the life of a prosthetist right there. Sometimes it's great, and sometimes I want to pull my hair out.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And we were joking around. It's like, well, when I mess up and I do the wrong treatment on a patient, I can quickly correct it. You've got the whole socket thing to contend with. So, you know, hats off to you. But yeah, no, and it was interesting. I follow Amy Purdy, right, on Instagram. Amy Purdy, for those of you who don't know who she is, she's a bilateral below the knee amputee. She's a Paralympic Paralympic snowboard. She's been on Dancing with the Stars, incredibly active. She's got a wonderful following on Instagram. And, you know, because she's had 10 surgeries in the past 2 years, she's being now refit for her prosthesis. And she was commenting on how one leg has been over a year now It's been over a year. And you think of Amy Purdy, and she's got resources. She's got everything available to her. And she's an experienced amputee in the sense that she's very active. She's been through several sockets, so she knows what works. And obviously the prosthetist that she works with. And even for someone like her, she was commenting, guys, this is the behind the scenes look that many of you don't see, either because you're not an amputee or because you're just not aware. It's been over a year and I'm still trying to get the fit of this socket, and my prosthetist and I are working together and working together. So, it's just to show that this really is, and it's not about, to me, the measure of one of the measures of a good prosthetist is someone who's willing to keep going back to the drawing board when something's not working and try to find another solution.
Absolutely. And the definition of the insanity is doing the same thing twice and expecting to
exactly.
And I think in prosthetics, you got to give it a little more leeway, maybe 3 times, because there's a little bit of variables in there. You don't know exactly if it was the chicken or the egg. But definitely having someone who's going to be willing to brainstorm new solutions, try different systems, different techniques, and push outside their comfort zone. And I think that transitions us perfectly into, when to get a second opinion and how to handle situations such as an ill-fitting socket. For me, with the ill-fitting socket, on both sides, it makes it easiest when both people are keeping their cool. We're working together on everything. And I think that process needs some time to percolate. Sometimes that can be as much as 3 to 6 months. And what the patient should expect is that there's just not really any dilly-dallying around. I don't want to waste your time coming to my clinic, saying, have you drive an hour for your appointment only to come in and after 15 minutes I'm like, oh, well, come back next week and we'll have something else ready. Like, no, when we're in the thick of battle, we need to be diligent about figuring out solutions that are going to work for you. So, possibly recasting, fitting multiple prototypes in one day, whatever it is that we need to do, we need to be cognizant that you're ultimately waiting on this to possibly get your life restarted. So I am going to work on that as much as is humanly possible within the other constraints that I have going on to get everything fixed up. And that's the level of service that you should expect in getting that prosthesis going, because we might have to try in those really, really dire situations, try 10, 15, 20 different things to figure out something that's going, the right formula, the right mix of everything that goes together to make your prosthesis right. So if we do that once a week, if we just do one socket every week and it takes 20 sockets, we just did 20 weeks. We did half a year there. So what I'm getting at is it just needs to go a little bit quicker than that. So we're working with some intention.
There you go. You've got a ton of comments. We're not going to be able to keep up with all these comments. Ronnie.
Yeah. So that's the ill-fitting socket, and when to get a second opinion, when you just have no momentum or forward progress. It's like, when there's no light at the end of the tunnel, there's no excitement, there's no enthusiasm. The relationship and the communication is starting to break down. I think that's, a good time to go get a second opinion. They're all, the elephant in the room is skill level. Is this person that I'm working with skilled enough to get me to the end of the road? And sometimes the answer on that, no matter how nice they are, is no. My second prosthetist, and I have so much respect for him because what he told me exactly was, I've done everything I can do for you, and you have my blessing to go somewhere else, and this is my recommendation.
That's a good man right there to be able to say,
completely changed my life, and we still talk today. There's no hard feelings, and if anything, I respect him more rather than less.
Absolutely. And I know early on in my career, I definitely ran into some of those cases where some of the more complicated cases, where I was fortunate to work in a hospital where I had the most experienced PT working with amputees, and I would have to pass the case on to my mentor or have him work with me because I understood. I was like, I'm out of my league on this one, and I want to do what's best for the patient. So guys, as clinicians, sometimes we have to admit when we are out of our scope. And my poor mentor, he retired like 7 years ago, and he'll still sometimes get a phone call from me bugging him. But yeah, and actually Teresa brought up a good point here. She was working
I love that point.
with a wonderful prosthetist, and the prosthetist, I guess, was very busy and passed her on to some of the less experienced prosthetists in the clinic. And those prosthetists were just not meeting her needs, and she spoke up about it. And I think that's perfectly okay, especially if I have a student that I'm working with, or if I have a less experienced physical therapist, I would hope that they would come to me if they feel like they're not doing everything they possibly can for the patient, and how we can work together. So if you're in a clinic with that kind of a setup where you have the more experienced clinician and then, junior clinicians, right? Then yes, speak up, because it's the job of the senior clinician to help teach those junior clinicians, especially if you have something that's challenging about your case. Right, guys?
Yeah, oh, no, it's all good. I think that's a good place to go with that. I guess now's a good time to talk about the delivery receipt.
Yes, but before that, hang on, hold that thought, guys. We're going to do our last giveaway, and I'm announcing it now because it's going to take a little time for you guys to do this. So I want you to do it. Okay. So I just posted up there the POA Tennessee Facebook page. So for those of you, Harsh, I hope you're still on here. I told you I would give you something that wasn't Instagram. So go visit the POA Tennessee Facebook page and follow it, like it. And then you're going to see this crazy picture of me. I'm doing something really goofy on the post. Hit like on the post. We're going to pick a random person of the people who have liked that post, and we're going to do a $50 gift card giveaway, guys. We're going to give you a couple of minutes to do this, okay? So go to the Facebook page for POA Tennessee. I put the link right up there. Like their page, follow them, and then like the post where you see my crazy face. All right, so go do that while we keep talking about this other thing that we're going to talk about. All right, so Ronnie, you're going to talk to us about the receipt. And this is kind of a cool thing we wanted to bring to you guys tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially the way prosthetic care works, I'm just going to do like the quick 101, is we get reimbursed based on service provided or the device provided. So essentially we go through this whole entire, let's just for the sake of this discussion, call it a 4 to 8 week process. And then we get to the end of the road. We provide a laminated socket, a finished prosthesis. Patient signs the delivery ticket. And that's generally when it's kosher to, bill insurance, that kind of thing, and get paid for the service that we provide. So Kosi is going to bring up a picture of what a delivery receipt looks like. The reason we wanted to bring this up is because there are a lot of misconceptions with that, of how it works. But the number one thing you should take away is that you should not sign the delivery receipt until you're happy with the service that has been provided. Until that prosthesis is fitting you correctly, you have a foot that you like or a knee that you like, you shouldn't sign the delivery receipt, because that leaves you open to a situation where you might get disappointed. And we don't want that.
Yep. So here, are you
right here?
Did it go through?
Yeah. So, something that this might have on it, it'll have your patient name, your demographics, and people get confused by the L codes, but the L codes are just procedure codes to describe, some of the things that went into your socket. So the first code here is the base code, below the knee molded socket. And then, under that you get 2 test sockets. There's some other things to kind of describe the lamination, the parts and pieces that connect it together. A suspension sealing sleeve, 2 of those, 2 liners, a whole array and assortment of socks. And then last but not least, there's a foot on there. So, it does go through in detail all of the different procedures that were done with the prosthesis. And it is normal for this to be, fairly long, for there to be anywhere from, 12 to, 25 codes in there, just depending on how complex your service is. But that's what one looks like. And you just don't want to sign it until you're really, really happy with what you have going on. And sometimes that can be in the check socket phase, because you have enough trust and confidence in that person that, they're going to get you all the way there. But, the safe bet is that if you're having issues or you're having trouble, just don't sign it until you're all taken care of.
All right. And guys, I always kind of talk to people. It's kind of like also the restaurant receipt. When you go to a restaurant, you get your bill, you just kind of take a quick glance over and make sure they didn't put in something that wasn't there. And not because people are going to try to cheat or anything like that, but just because mistakes happen. So have a look through and just make sure that everything that was there. Let's see. Box and giveaway. Okay. I think people are still answering the original giveaway. So that's kind of funny. All right, guys. So,
I can announce the winner on this right now. We've had quite a few people go and comment on this, but Miss Patricia Higgins.
All right, Patricia. She has been watching the show a long time, so awesome. I am so happy, so happy. All right, so Patricia, dear, congratulations. You just got yourself a $50 gift card. Go ahead and contact me. You can, Facebook Messenger, email, website. Let me know your address and we will get that out to you.
Awesome.
Excellent. So guys, I know we probably have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions for Ronnie, but we've got a lot of questions. And just so you know, guys, if we didn't get to your questions tonight, I do go back through the shows and try to comb through and answer these questions as well. Okay. And also, if you have a question that you think of after we shut the show down, because that's how it happens, right? You guys can always email me directly through my website. I'm going to go ahead and just post that up there. I do answer all these emails on my own. All right. So we will get these answers for you. All right. So were there any questions here, guys? I think there was one. Sorry.
Yeah, I was super excited to be on the show tonight. I mean, I really, really love the audience and how engaged and interactive it is. Yeah, it really makes me feel good to be here and kind of be sharing a little bit of experience. So, I guess, this is before a sign off, but thank you everybody for, allowing me to be here today. And I hope that it was useful and beneficial. And whether it's through COSI or whether you want to reach out to me directly on one of my platforms, I'm happy to just be a sounding board. I had a lot of people who were there for me during my time of need. And I'm very, very thankful and appreciative of them. And the only way that I feel like I can pay that back is by doing that for other people. So, and I guess that's part of the circle and part of the journey, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you again. We did not take it easy on you this evening with the hard questions. So thank you for being in the hot seat, literally answering these tough questions that need to be answered. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Because people have so many questions and they just don't get the direct feedback. And we just want to keep it real.
Yep. So guys, just as I mentioned earlier in the show, Ronnie is going to be coming back. We haven't scared him off, so this is great. He's going to be coming back later this year. We've got the calendar up on my COSI Talks website. We also have a little bit about POA on my website as well, so be sure you check that out. We're going to be talking to you about liners. We're going to be talking to you about suspension systems, which I'm excited to learn more about myself. And then finally, at the end of the year, we're going to talk about adaptive rock climbing, which is just really, really, really exciting. So guys, as always, thank you for letting us be a part of your lives this evening. Thank you to Prosthetic and Orthotic Associates of Tennessee and Ronnie for sponsoring the show and supporting the mission to educate, inform, and empower. So guys, y'all know where to find us. Give us your questions. Don't be shy. And I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. God bless, guys.
Thank you all. Have a great evening.